Buy on MTG. Construct your deck. Command your board. Conquer the table.
Hello and good morning out there in the wide world of web. This is Rob with Buy on MTG. Doing a mail day, doing a little bit different. First off, this is a second take. I'm not exactly sure what I did, but I did not unmute my microphone, so all of the audio was wasted. We're going to start out with the something old for the case, or for the safe. This is the Fallen Empires, the comic book series by Armada. The primary reason that I got this is I have an idea with the comics that I'm working on, but also when I do my old set reviews, I like to show a vintage pack, and this comic actually came with a sealed, nice clean Fallen Empires pack. And if you are aware of the older set on this white portion, they can be searched, and not that there's anything crazy expensive in Fallen Empires that I was overly concerned about, but I don't know. I would rather know for sure it wasn't searched, and the person that I get my safe packs through wasn't doing Fallen Empires anytime soon, because there's not a lot of value to it, and I felt like this was probably the easiest way to get a nice clean Fallen Empires pack. The next thing that I was looking at is my play group. Pretty much everybody has a Kindred deck that they play primarily, and I didn't have a 5-color version where got a Slivers guy, got a Dragons guy, and whatnot, but we had these Eldrazi Precons that came out recently, and I thought if I picked them both up, I could probably meld them together and make a really good, at least a Precon base that might be viable from a 5-color perspective, and I'll just do Eldrazi. I mean, you can't really go too far off if you're just starting with Precons and you're going to do a 10 to 15 card upgrade for after you conjoin these into one little monster. But I thought this was a neat little thing to pick up, and got both of these from my LGS, just at different time frames, and they had a restock of these recently, so texted them right away, and I ran down there and scooped it up and sleeved it up yesterday. This one, Focusrite, is music and music equipment, and it's not really Magic related, but it is for the studio, so definitely is noticeable in the last couple videos. I've got lav mic system, so each one of the 4 players is individually on their own microphone, because originally I was just using like a single boom down, and it wasn't the best, but using the lavs, their adjustability, their gain control is only so limited. But pick this up. It's the Scarlett 18i8, and it allows me to do 4 individual inputs for each one of the lav mics with individual gain controls, so I can turn myself down and turn everybody else up a little bit and make it a little bit better balanced sound. I really like Focusrite equipment, and I actually have the Scarlett, the 4 system over on my desktop computer. For the guitars, you can run microphones, you can run regular audio equipment or instruments and whatnot through these. So I was pretty excited to pick this up for the studio as a whole. And the last thing, like most mail days, this one I've actually gone through all these cards and unsleeved them and whatnot, but kind of break down and talk about what I'm purchasing currently. So I'm going to start this behind my head. This Minas Tirith, if you've watched the video that I did, not just how I build commander decks, but it transitions into a mono white Angels Precon upgrade, pretty extensive Precon upgrade. This whole stack is for that Angels deck. Flawless Maneuver to keep my, Minas Tirith is for card draw, because card draw is amazing. Flawless Maneuver, protect my board. Clever Concealment, protect my board. Trouble in Pairs is card draw. World Slayer is, I mention it as a potential combo with Big Avacyn, but it's not in the primary deck. I'm not a big fan of 2-card combos in a casual perspective, so I don't normally run those. I just picked it up because it wasn't too expensive. One Ring, that's an amazing card. Right now, the price is coming down on them. I guess there's speculation about it being banned. And I mean, if it is, it is. If it's not, well, I got one for this deck a little bit cheaper. Resplendent Angel creates tokens, and you can, I don't know, just makes angels. It's a relatively cheap angel because most angels are pretty high on the curve, so it's nice to have one lower to the ground. Land tax is pretty good for white to get some cards in your hand, ensure that you're not missing your land drops. But what I like to do with it is scroll rack. So you get the cards, the lands into your hand, and you just elect to ensure you're always at least one land behind everybody or one person. So that way land tax can consistently trigger, but you can use scroll rack to shuffle those back in and replace them with real cards. So it turns into like a 2-card combo for drawing 3 cards every turn, which is pretty great. Esper Sentinel is great card draw. This is a new angel, but it's super low to the ground. It's a 1 mana, 1/1 flying vigilance. That's pretty great. Herald's Horn, it's the cost reducer for the angels, but there's the potential for the card draw, and I find that as long as you're running Sensei's Divining Top, it can increase the probability quite a bit, so it happens a lot more often. Archivist of Ogmaw, whenever an opponent searches, and a lot of people will say, well, in casual, you know, we don't run a lot of tutors, but that's not necessarily true because precons come with a couple different land tutors. Precons come with search your library for X or Y. So Archivist of Ogmaw triggers a lot more than people assume, and the higher power level the group is, the better Archivist of Ogmaw actually is. Meticulous Evacuation, 1 mana enchantment for 3 mana or 2 and a white. Return target permanent you control to its owner's hand. If it has unearthed, that's irrelevant. What you essentially do with this is you bounce the 1 ring back to your hand, you recast the 1 ring, so that way it perpetually cycles and you perpetually have protection from everything. It's pretty great. It's a 2-card cute little combo. One thing you'll notice, this Archivist of Ogmaw is a cleric. A lot of clerics have really strong support for the angels in general. So like I'll jump to this Righteous Valkyrie, 2 and a white. It's an angel cleric flyer, 2/4. Whenever another angel or cleric enters the battlefield under your control, you gain life equal to its toughness. As long as you have 7 or more life than your starting life, total creatures you control get +2/+4. So real strong synergy between angels and clerics, and the reason that I point that out with the Archivist of Ogmaw being a cleric, but also this Guide of Souls being a human cleric, whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life and you get an energy. Whenever you attack, you may pay 3 energy, and if you do, you put 2/+1 counters and a flying counter, and target attacking creature becomes an angel. So it's kind of cool. It transitions the clerics into angels. Nyx Lotus, the precon comes with Nikto Shrine to Nyx, and that being said, it's a very powerful card, and I've never really used this Nyx Lotus though, and I was just looking at mono white ramp, and there's not a ton of opportunity, but this is something that I was going to play test. So that's why that little fella's there. Fire Main Commando, 3 and a white for a 4/3 flying angel. Whenever you attack with 2 or more creatures, you draw a card. Imagine that. I love attacking, and I love drawing cards. Whenever another player attacks with 2 or more creatures, they draw a card if none of those creatures attack you. So it's a neat little like, hey, you keep it over there. I don't care what you 3 are doing to one another, but leave me out of it, and you get some cards out of it. Coveted Jewel, card ramp, or mana ramp, and card draw all together. And this deck, because it does have a very high density of flyers, and I'm going to run Moat in it, and it can keep Coveted Jewel protected a little bit better. Deep Gnome Terramancer, it's 2 mana for a 2/2 flash. Whenever 1 or more lands enter the battlefield under an opponent's control without being played, you may search your library for a plains and put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. The dogs are running around. Neat. So without them being played, that more or less falls into those real basic land tutors that are even in precons. So sometimes you get a little bit of ramp out of it, and it's pretty low to the ground, not a big deal. Smuggler's Share, It's 2 and a white for an enchantment. At the beginning of each end step, draw a card for each opponent who drew 2 or more cards this turn. This kind of falls real close to Trouble in Pairs. It's just consistency and redundancy within that. Exemplar of Light. 2 and 2 white for a 3/3 Flying Angel. Whenever you gain life, put a +1 counter on it. Whenever you put a +1 counter on one or more, whenever you put 1 or more +1 counters on this creature, you draw a card. Triggers only once each turn, but you'll notice I've said +1 counters a couple times earlier in this, and the commander can actually put +1 counters. And the life gain, there's a fair amount of life gain within this deck, so this just ends up being a little bit more card draw. That's everything that I've received so far for the Angels deck that I'm building, but it's quite a bit, and I think there's only one more envelope that I'm actually waiting on. I'm going to set this one aside and go to the rest of the stack. Teferi Master of Time. So I've had Aminatou, the Fate Shifter, that's the Esper Planeswalker that can be your commander on a couple different instances. And I did Theft, and I've done a couple different, like a top deck or control build. But I wanted to try and approach her from a purely Planeswalker perspective because she lets you flicker things, and there's some really neat synergies within that. The Teferi Master of Time is just a great Planeswalker. And just the card draw that he gives you, the ability to activate it on everybody else's turn, lets him get real big real quick, and his ultimate letting you take 2 extra turns is pretty crazy. Ickermoon Gauntlet. 2 and 2 blue for an artifact. Planeswalkers you control have 0 proliferate and -12 take an extra turn after this one. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, use a counter on target permanent. Put an additional counter of that kind on that permanent. So it gives you like a baby proliferate, but it gives all of your Planeswalkers a proliferate ability, which is really a +1 ability. Chain Veil is great in a Planeswalker deck. Getting additional activations of all your Planeswalkers is pretty powerful. Oath of Teferi, it's just additional activations of your Planeswalkers. And it synergizes really well with the Aminatou because you can activate her once to flicker something, and then you can still do the other side of it. And it allows you, there's a couple different loops that involve Oath of Teferi. Deep Glow Skate or the Double Fish, just doubling all the counters on permanents, so the loyalty counters, so then you can just go ahead and ultimate everything. Not to mention it's an ETB, and Aminatou has that flicker ability, so you can ETB it a couple times and ultimate all your things. Faithful Strix is a 1/1 flyer, Death Touch, and draws a card when you enter. It's just a really cheap and easy and low-to-the-ground method to protect your Planeswalkers. Archivist of Ogma, the same reason it's in the Angels deck. It draws you cards, and I like it. Felidar Guardian, just another flicker aspect, and this in conjunction with Oath of Teferi lets you activate the Aminatou to do the draw discard or whichever. Then you get to activate her again, which you could flicker Felidar Guardian. Felidar Guardian comes back in. You flicker Aminatou with its ETB, and it resets it, so it gives you another 2 activations with her. That's part of the combos that I was talking about. Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, just big Teferi is a monster. The card draw, the bounce, it's just a powerful Planeswalker. The Wandering Emperor and the Eternal Wanderer are both really cool cards. Flash Planeswalkers kind of need +1 counters and gives you little people to protect your Planeswalkers. In both instances, they give you little guys. But just real cool, and thought they were neat. And these are so far the Planeswalkers I picked up. Now, like I said, it's going to be the Esper Aminatou Planeswalker, so there's some black Planeswalkers that are going to be coming in the mail for this in the future. Additional cards, you recall I picked up Shroofus last mail day. It may have been a couple mail days ago, but Saprolings is going to be a real token synergy build, so I thought Growing Rights of Itlimoc is pretty great for anything with tokens. This Bright Cap Badger, it makes Saprolings, and it makes your Saprolings into Mana Dorks, which is pretty great. So I thought that was awesome. I found that there's a fairly high overlap of landfall, so being able to recycle your fetch lands, whatever kind they are, would trigger the Saproling things a lot more often. So with Crucible of Worlds and Conduit of Worlds, both allowing me to play out of the graveyard, and Conduit, of course, letting you cast some of the spells and whatnot, non-land permanents from your graveyard is pretty great. Verdant Embrace, enchantment, makes the enchanted creature bigger, and they make Saprolings. Tendershoot Dryad gives you Saprolings every upkeep, and if you have the City's Blessing, then all your Saprolings are bigger, and it gives you Ascend, so it can give you the City's Blessing relatively easy. Utopia Mycon is 1 mana for a fungus, but it does the spore counter synergies, and you can remove the spore counters to make a Saproling. You can sacrifice Saprolings to this to make them into mana. It's a pretty neat little ramp. That's everything that I picked up so far for the fungus Saproling deck, but there's definitely a lot more coming from that perspective. The rest of this is all going to be just like miscellaneous stuff that I thought was neat. The Sunforger is really good for the Stop Hitting Yourself deck. You'll notice that the Nelly Borka is, I think she's like a 1/4, so she can hit consistently. She has vigilance because you want to get in there and you want to do the taunt thing, but making her hits actually count for something. But more importantly, the 2 mana unattached search your library for an instant with 4 or less is pretty great because you have like Clever Concealment, you have Nefarious Protection, you can go get that source of sourced Plowshares or that Path to Exile. It lets you not just tutor but cast the spell. So Sunforger, pretty neat utility in there. This is out of the new Jumpstart. I still have a bunch of Jumpstart to go, but I wasn't 100% sure if I'm going to get this card specifically in my packs, but I wanted this elf because I think this is just really powerful, especially for an uncommon. This is just a card that I picked up because I thought it was good. Similarly, Psychic Frog. It's card draw. It's a really neat little critter, and I just thought it was neat, so I picked one up. Linvala. I have been talking more about the CEDH approach, and casting free spells can be dangerous, so turning them off makes me feel safe, so that's why I picked up this Linvala. And same in conjunction with these Retraction Helix. I picked up 2 of them. They were relatively cheap, and I thought, it's a cool looking foil, but there's a handful of infinite mana loops in CEDH that are pretty commonly played with Retraction Helix, so I just scooped them up because they were, I don't know, I think they were 75 cents or something like that. Zorn is just a cool card. Making additional treasures. I have a couple ideas banging around that are going to lean pretty heavy into dragons and treasures and whatnot. And I thought, Zorn, why get 1 treasure when you can get 2? And that's why he's right next to this Goldspan Dragon. Because not only are you getting 2 from the treasures, but then you can sacrifice them for twice the amount of mana. These are just some of the typo promos and whatnot that had LGS stuff going on. So these are really cool. You got the Goblin King, the Zombie Master, and the Lord of Atlantis. All just real cool cards picked up locally. And the buy a box from the Foundations stuff and Solemn Simulacrum. So I'm going to set them over there with the other box stuff. These were couple really good cards that came in recent collections over at my LGS, and they text me and I'm like, yeah, I would like this, or they post them on their Facebook, and I message directly and I'm asking, hey, did anybody call X, Y, or Z? And if they didn't, they'll set them aside in a little team bag and write my name on it, and then I go in there and I pay for them and pick them up. But Ristic Study, it's the alternate art from that TV show, but I'll pop it up because I'm sure somebody will call me out. I've never watched the show, but I know it's really popular. Cyclonic Rift, I wanted a foil one. I just thought it was pretty and it was a reasonable price, so I grabbed it. Same with the Phyrexian Metamorph. Now this one, the Fires of Yavimaya, I'm a big fan of the older foils, and Fires is a great card. I definitely think it's been outclassed by a couple newer enchantments. I'll pop them both up. But there's alternate methods to give all your stuff haste that are the exact same mana cost and even the same card type. But this one's just really cool. It's old school, and I liked it, so I grabbed it. Templar Knights. I ended up with 2 foils and 2 non-foils of these Templar Knights. So with them, the idea was I like having you can have any number of them in your decks. And these were in the bulk box at the comic book shop, and I scooped them up because they were, I don't know, a real good deal. And I didn't have any Templar Knights because I didn't buy any of the, whatever this is, Assassin's Creed. Ozolith, the Shattered Spire, I thought it was neat, and I toying with changing my Gruul deck over to the Wolverine, the best there was, or best there is, and he does +1 counter stuff, so needed +1 counters. On these Lord of the Rings ones, I have the One Ring from this little like 4-card put together, make a single art. And I just didn't have these other 3, and I just out of curiosity I looked, and a single store had them, and I think it was they're very cheap. They're less than $1 each, so I scooped them up so I could put them together and have the artwork combined. Flibblethip the Lost. You'll recall I did a video on all the different Flibblethips, and I did not order this anime Flibblethip. But I did, and it came in the mail very, very fast. I only ordered this like 4 days ago, and it's already here, so that's pretty cool. And last old school thing, the Nathali Dragon, or it's a really cool welt that originally in the 90s was an event promo, and had a different stamp on it. It came with a little stamp like right here, and I'll pop it up on the screen. But this was a different, like a pre-release event promo that was in a foreign country. I don't know. I think this is Japanese or something, but I'm not going to pretend that I know. So I just thought it was neat, and I wanted to put it right next to the other Nathali Dragon that I have. But yeah, it's a lot of different stuff this time. Pre-cons, comic books with Fallen Empires packs, sound equipment, and a ton of singles for a bunch of different ideas. But that's been my mail day, and that's why I had to get this thing filmed, because it was starting to back up a little bit, and I didn't want to get too far behind on it. Hope you all are having a great day out there. I'm Rob. This is Bion MTG. Good luck and have fun.
Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment down below.